Well, hi, welcome on back. Today I'm going to let you make the decision if you should be changing your high pressure oil pump oil in the high pressure oil pump reserve. Stick around, you're going to like the content within. Well, thanks for sticking around through that. Today, we're going to let you make the decision on if you should be changing your high pressure oil pump oil in the reserve. So let's get gloved up here and pucker up, and we're going to go on in. In order to start this journey, we're going to start it in reverse. We've got the high pressure oil pump cover, and this right here really is not meant for you to be putting anything into to remove the oil. This is just for inspection. Then we have the reserve tank, and that tank right there, and I'll get in here a little bit closer, and there'll be some up close pictures also as we go. So as you can see, this is what's happening inside, and then this is the bottom part of it right there. So as you can see, there's oil that will remain in this area while the engine is off or running, and we'll show you how it gets pumped through in a moment. Then you got your high pressure oil pump, which is taking the feed of oil, increasing that pressure based on the amount that the computer is telling the pump or the sensor to inject into the rails of the heads to power the injectors, which the injectors, if you're not a 7.3 enthusiast, the injectors are Huey injectors. They need high pressure oil in order to open and close. Then inside that, we have the gasket and a little filter. Then we have the timing cover with the low pressure oil pump. And the story will begin then at this point in time. So you have an oil pan right here. There's an oil pickup that then feeds into this hole right here, which then goes and brings oil through suction of the low pressure oil pump through this area right through here, and then the oil pump pushes it out through here, and that is taken down a large tube which is called an oil cooler. That ends up at the back of the motor, goes through the filter, then gets pushed through the motor and ends up in these areas right here, and that is what is going to feed oil up into this area right here. So we're going to put that back on now that we've got that explained. If you ever needed to change your low pressure oil pump, it's extremely easy. You have your crank right here. This is a separate unit. This gear drive is what fits on the crank. Inside of the housing is another gear, and what is happening is as the crank turns, she's going to be oblonging, crushing the oil and pushing it out through this area right here into the oil cooler. Real easy to take off, piece of cake, easy change. So if you're thinking of upgrading your low pressure oil pump, it's a piece of cake. I've done it on one of my 7.3s, didn't even need to take out the fan, nor did I need to take out the radiator. I did it from the underside. I built a special tool myself just to remove the harmonic balancer, and at that stage of the game, because of the age of the vehicle, I threw a new harmonic balancer on it too. But anyways, we've got 2 little lineup holes, and that tells you that you've got it sitting on the motor the way it should be. And at this point in time, as long as you lubed it up, if you're putting a new one on, she'll just fire up, suck the oil right on up and down the road that you go. So let's move on from there, and we're gonna assemble it, and then we're also gonna take a very close look inside for you to make your decision if you should be changing this oil or not. Over 550,000 plus miles on one of my 7.3s. I've never changed it. I have another 7.3 that's got over 800,000 miles on it. Never changed it. And the reason why I never changed it is I watched the videos, I seen the people, I seen the experts, I seen the people who don't believe in doing it. Some people are just like, you know, if you don't do it, you're absolutely crazy, your motor's gonna blow up. Once again, you make the decision here. The amount of oil that is being forced into this motor through this pump is going to continuously move the oil. Is there a chance that you might have oil sitting down in this area right here? You'll be taking a closer look at that in just a little bit. But let's not forget the filter. And get that in there. And we'll put this back on. Helps if we do it right. Put that back on there. And we put the cover on. So what we're going to be doing next is getting close up and personal so you can see right inside what is happening as I slowly disassemble and give you some really nice pictures of what is happening. All right. In order to get an in-depth look here of what's going on, you need to come on over here, you know, a little bit closer. You know, I don't have bad breath, I don't stink, so come on, get on in here. All right, just a little bit closer. Let's get down here. All right, there you go. Now we're close enough. Now we're going to learn something. So here we got the cover, and once again, like I stated earlier, this is nothing more than an inspection plug. It's not designed actually to take off and remove for oil exchanges, because the motor actually does it itself. But if you don't change your motor oil, or you use crappy motor oil, then you're going to run into issues. But let's take a close look here at what is happening and what my opinion of this situation is. So let's get the cover off, and there's not a whole lot of bolts that actually hold this on. As you can see, it is very easy to remove this cover, and a new o-ring for it is not an expensive, you know, bank breaking situation. So top cover right here, and we're going to get rid of that. All right, now we got the pump reserve tank, and let's take a look down inside of there. And let's remove that. And that's what's holding your oil reserve, both for when the engine is running and when you turn it off. It doesn't drain empty. It's always full. So let's get rid of that. And we have next in line the gasket with the filter. And we're finally at the timing cover. You can see the high pressure oil pump, and of course the gear is not in there, and that runs off the gear drive of the cam. There is no timing on it. Doesn't make a difference when you take the high pressure oil pump out and reinstall it, just as long as you crank her down to that 90 foot-pounds that it's supposed to be at. And you want to make sure that when you install your high pressure oil pump and you're retorquing the bolt and the gear that goes on there, that it's not sitting kitty-wampus, because you'll wreck the gear and you'll get a no-start situation and you'll be throwing wrenches throughout the garage. So if you look down, that is where the filter sits, and this basically is the concern that some of the people who are proponent or who state that you should change this oil via by sucking it out and pouring in new. And by the way, you can suck this thing out dry. If you're a proponent, you can suck it out dry. To me, it's not necessary, but you make the decision based on what you're seeing here. But you can suck it out dry and you can fill it up as much as you want. You don't have to measure. If you're going to suck it out, you don't have to measure how much is going back in. It's going to automatically come up and go back into the motor. Obviously, you don't want to take out a quart and put in 5 quarts. You know, if you're that stupid, then you shouldn't be working on it. But nonetheless, this is where the oil shoots up. That's what fills this area up. That is what fills up the reserve tank. And like I said, the extra splash over ends up going back into the motor. Now I'm going to remove the high pressure oil pump. So if you've never done this before, there's only 2 bolts that hold it on and then 1 gear drive. And you can see the front. And where the oil areas are that feed it. And then where the oil goes out in high pressure to each side of the oil rails. And we're going to shoot on down here. Let's take the low pressure oil pump off. Let's just go ahead, take the timing cover back off again. So this is what you're looking at. It's a very simple process. So there you have it. This is what is happening in a 7.3 as far as the high pressure oil pump oil reserve. And should you change it? Well, it's your decision. Do you want to change it? Do you not want to change it? Is it worthwhile changing? Decision is yours. But I want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope this information might help you in your decision, because the fight will never end. You're always going to have proponents, you're always going to have all kinds of opinions, but this is what is happening actually inside the motor, inside the high pressure oil pump oil reserve. And if you wish to do it, this is my opinion right now. If you want to, I would think it would be better off doing it maybe twice a year. Just go ahead and buy the 2 gaskets and the new filter. They're not that expensive. Take the cover off. Go ahead and just remove this right here, the reserve. Clean them up, make them look pretty, put your favorite stickers on them. Who cares? But that probably would be the best way to attack this. Sticking a tube down inside, you're kind of fishing, and even though chances of a bunch of gobbledygook ending up in your oil and making it all the way through and passing through this, if you jab a hole through it and wrecking your motor, well, first off, it's not a good idea, but chances are that not much is going to happen. But they did put the filter on there for a reason, so in the grand scheme of things, international, because, yeah, you know, Powerstroke, Ford Powerstroke, you know, it's an international motor. The engineers must have thought something, that they put that filter on there for a reason, and every time you're jabbing something down there to suck out a bunch of oil, and then you're gonna measure the exact amount of oil. Just my opinion, remove the whole thing, clean it on up. Once again, just estimate the amount of oil that you need to put back in it. You can't overfill it. You literally actually could put a funnel on the top here in that hole, and you could fill your motor completely up with oil. So you don't need to measure right down to the exact tiny little millimeter of how much oil you need to put back in there. You just, yeah, it looks, you know, like a half a quart, 3/4 of a quart, put it in there. If you're on the other side of the fence, like I said, I've never changed mine. Never felt the need. The reason why is I use good quality oil, and I change my oil religiously every 5,000 miles or less. And I don't beat the living tar out of it either. But this is what's happening inside. You make the decision. And I want to thank you very much for stopping by. Go ahead, hit a like button, hit the subscribe. I've got other videos. Hit my video list. We got videos up of the Adrenaline high pressure oil pump that I put in from dieselsite.com, and what my thoughts and what the end results were. We have different videos of reviews that we do on vinyl wraps, radiators, cars that I've picked up and resuscitated back to life again. So there's some fun stuff. Stick around and root through those. Until then, you have a good day. You're still here yet? It's over. Oh, I know. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, and that'll tell you when my next video comes up. Until then, go home.